Democrats, U.S. lawmakers have just advanced a government funding bill moving closer to ending the U.S. government shutdown 40 days since it began. I want to go straight to CNBC's D.C. reporter Emily Wilkins, who has been staying up late to keep track of all of these developments. Emily, we're seeing these live pictures coming to the CNBC newsroom now. Just help us understand exactly what's happening on the ground.
Yes, Dan. Well, after 40 days of a stalemate in Congress, lawmakers have finally come at least to an agreement that was able to get us to that 60 votes needed to advance the bill. Now, we should note the shutdown is not done yet. The bill is not even out of the Senate yet. There are still more votes that need to take place, but 60 is the magic number. And the reason that it took so long to get is because Democrats were holding out. They wanted to make sure that healthcare costs were going to remain low for millions of Americans who rely on these tax credits that were expiring at the end of the year. That's what they were holding out for. Ultimately, they didn't get it, but they did get a promise that there would be a later vote on extending those credits. And that was one of the things that helped open up the government. The other thing, of course, was a package of bipartisan spending bills that will really fund at least a piece of the government for the rest of the fiscal year. The other half of the government, that is going to just be continuing current funding until the end of January. There could be another opportunity to shut down the government then if some of the concerns that arose this time come up again. But at this point, there is enough support. You heard from some of the Democrats who crossed the line to vote with Republicans that due to a number of things, flights being delayed, federal workers not being paid for more than a month, some issues with food assistance. The pressure had finally risen to a point where they felt good about taking the deal Republicans were offering. Of course, now the big question is, can Democrats and Republicans find a way to extend some of these tax credits, keep healthcare prices lower for these millions of Americans, or could we be facing a situation where Democrats might be incentivized to shut down the government again at the end of January? Dan?
Exactly, Emily, and that's what makes this so interesting as well, not just from a markets and economic perspective, but from a political perspective as well. You've been covering this from day one, and as you mentioned, this is the longest running government shutdown in history. What is different about this shutdown in terms of the impact that we've seen on the markets and in the U.S. economy?
It's always very interesting with shutdowns. It feels like maybe after so many, the markets don't panic as much as they did previously. But certainly this one was much longer than what we've seen historically. It's been the longest shutdown. It was very interesting, though, to see some of the impacts. You know, we thought that several things were going to happen much earlier in the shutdown. The military not getting paid, that was supposed to happen 15 days in. But Trump and the White House, they've been able to move funding around so that a lot of the concerns and a lot of the pressure points that would have caused a lot of pain and forced lawmakers to move a little quicker were alleviated. I think that's part of the reason that the shutdown has gone on as long as it has. Also, we've kept a very close eye on polling from Americans, how they felt about the shutdown. I think a lot of them have supported the Democrats. We've seen consistently that Americans are more likely to blame Republicans and Trump for this shutdown than Democrats. Part of that is because Republicans do currently control Congress, but there was also a sense that people were supportive, that Democrats were trying to fight to lower health care prices. And certainly we just had some elections in the U.S. in a number of key states, and what we saw was that Democrats had an unexpectedly good night. We knew they were going to have a good night. They wound up having a great one, and that gave them some momentum in thinking that they should hold out, they should continue to push. But eventually the pressure got to the point where you did see 8 Senate Democrats flip, join with their Republican colleagues. And while we still have a ways to go, this is essentially the beginning of the end. I would expect, depending on what kind of agreements they can get on timing and votes, this could be wrapped up by the end of the week.